What up? Welcome, everybody. This is 25 to Lifestyle, Sentenced to Thrive. I am Rumbling Thunder, multimedia juggernaut. And today's topic is success through partnership, production meeting number 3. And we have in the building Prentice Banks and Miss Nisha.
Hey, hey.
Hey,
Hope everyone is doing well. If you are here, buckle up. I'm pretty sure this is about to be one for the ages. And I'm gonna bet the farm on that this is gonna be more than entertaining. People are gonna talk about this.
Let's get it in. let's get it
So
in.
what are we going to get into today? I would like you guys to introduce yourselves and just let everybody know what you got going on and what we're going to be, so they'll know what we'll be diving into today.
okay. Well,
Ladies first.
okay, thank you. My name is Nisha Walker. I am a trauma recovery practitioner. I help women heal from relationship trauma and such as divorce, breakup, abuse, abandonment, as well as family trauma. So that's what I do.
Hey. And I am
All right.
Prentice. I am a youth advocate, mentor, incarcerated inmate. Um, I am leading towards redefining manhood, grading, getting people back to the greater understanding of accountability as men, so we can be of men of value. So this is my journey.
All right. So the one thought that I've been kicking around the last couple of days in anticipation for this conversation is how often, from my observation, when melanated individuals have conversations like in an open forum, there is a level of victimization that is projected that suggests that we are in this circumstance or this position because of systematic oppression. Now, what I find very ironic is that when these talking points get segmented into women's plights and women's and men's plights, the women will often point the causation of their trauma towards melanated men, while melanated men are still saying, yeah, it's the system. And to me, this has been a point of contention that has caused this gender war that we're dealing with. And I ultimately believe that is by design. It's to get us to focus on the most negative integers and generalize them in a way to where people don't believe that there is a counter narrative. And that's what this brand is here to represent, a counter to what people know exists in regards to melanated men. We're not all criminals who, are looking to take advantage and rob you of your jewels. In fact, you have individuals like myself who grew up in a family of incarcerated men and did everything in their power to keep their nose clean so that they could be the opposite of what they grew up under. And I think it's very important to give these individuals a platform and a voice, as well as to communicate with our female counterparts who are doing the same thing. Not all women are bashing men. Some of us are here to present solutions. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be just talking it out and, seeing where we can find some commonalities to build upon.
Right. Even speaking on from the criminality aspect, being in my position that I'm in, being incarcerated, there's a stigma that people in prison are, you know, seeking out to manipulate, to destroy melanated women, um, which is not even the case. Not saying that some people do not participate in that activity. It does happen. But at the end of the day, majority of the men that operates are just generally seeking companionship and love, and due to the circumstances, and the way society project them, the image of us, which sets a prejudgment of the man that is actually has been transformed into an actual good man because he has been given the opportunity to take the time out to do the inner work, to find himself, to find his value, to find his principles, moral principles that define who he is. That way he can present himself to a melanated woman in the correct way of honor.
Yeah, I can see that. There's definitely, it's a very interesting dynamic that we're dealing with right now. Because I definitely can see that a lot of us as melanated men have learned discipline because of going through the penal system. And, it's unfortunate. And it's definitely unfortunate that the media has branded us in a way that that's all people see. It's really just because the statistics are so lopsided, and we're targeted to the point where, this is our brand. This is our brand. We are the world's criminal population. Like numerically, there's more prisoners locked up in America than all the other countries combined.
Well, if you look at it, if we look at it in the sense of this, we are actually marketed in the sense to the public as being given one image, the poverty and incarceration. That is the only thing that is really marketed towards self-identification. There's no really marketable information out there for melanated men or women to say, hey, here's something that is opposite of what you speak. It's not promoted in that sense. You know what I mean? So the things that we see is what the market offers. And if the market offers that, then the narrative controls the image, and the images control the information, and now we are living existence of it.
That's facts. And that's what this project is attempting to do: is be the change, and fight the battle through media. It's like we've been dismantled by the media. So to me, the solution has to come through media-driven projects, because that's where the kids are. They're on their devices. What are your thoughts, Ms. Nisha?
I think that we have to find like-minded people and come together with those who are willing. I think it's important for us to start there. And we have to learn how to create our own and support our own as well. I think that's important.
It's the only thing that's important to me. And to me, it's the program that has been implemented to destroy us, is to keep us apart and not working together, to keep the solution-based individuals to not partner with each other. And we are presented with this notion that success comes through autonomy, while no other culture on planet Earth operates like that. And this is where we have this current situation between men and women being combative because we've been pitted against each other and all we know is competition.
Not only competition, we only know seeing the image that stood before us of being devalued, which turns it into a separation into competition. Because if I'm looking at a melanated woman and I don't see value in her because the value is not within me, then what else do we have? You know what I mean? There's no mechanism that will allow us to engage in each other that way of balance.
That's facts. You definitely, one needs to know their own self-worth before they can value someone else. If you don't love yourself, it's going to be impossible for you to love someone else.
Right. So that takes us into now looking at the wide range of things, the success rate in partners, relationship, marriages, business, and anything that we engage in with our counterparts. Because where do we define equal balance of value and in that engagement?
Power dynamics, power struggles.
So,
you know, these are things.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. I was just going to say, these are things that, you know, I've talked about before and, you know, kind of how we got here. And, you know, it's in my observation and belief that, you know, women entering into the workforce and literally being put in competition with men for jobs has created this dynamic where those opportunities are limited for us, and it's an imbalance. And now you have women who have gained opportunities in career fields, and they have been jettisoned in with men and have adopted some of those personality traits. And the problem within our community is that all of this is unfamiliar. It's like an experiment. So we have a situation where you got money circulating and responsibility issued that neither party really know how to navigate and separate when it comes to the relationship. Like it crosses over.
So would you say that based on men, melanated men, operating from their experience, right? Not understanding how to identify a relatability to the feminine experience. Because if we look at it, men experience is totally different from the woman experience, but we can operate from the same external things, right? So in having that understanding about us working in the same workplace, same working with the same external things of career knowledge, where does the ego and the ego come from in identifying the melanated woman? Why does that exist?
I'm gonna tell you why, man. Because like I said, this is all an experiment. This is new. And you know, what's interesting is that what I can see plainly is that men are operating from a program or the same program that our granddads and great granddads were taught. But when it comes to women, like this is new. All of this is new. So there's really no way for us to be able to know how to engage it, quote unquote, properly, because it's not even it's never been a point of contention in any culture, really. Like all of this men and women competing for jobs, like this is, 30, 40 years in the making.
So the repetition has created somewhat of a numbing agent that is only supposed to operate this way. And if it doesn't operate that way, then there's a glitch in the system.
Everything's out of order because, like I said, that power dynamic is now murky.
Right.
And you have where, okay, let's say like the default system is the person with the most money is the breadwinner and the provider and the decision maker. So now if you have a female who is making just as much money or more money than her male counterpart, now that power dynamic is off. And especially if the ego is present, then you're going to have one party trying to dominate the other based on their monetary value, not the hierarchical structure in which, is supposed to just innately exist. And that's, to me, that's where I can see where the issue is like I said, we're all in a new space and trying to figure out how to value each presence, but we're interjecting money into the conversation, and it's not healthy.
So if we interject money into the equation, right? And the ideology is that men are the leaders of power of the household, right? And let's say the melanated woman is the breadwinner, right? Does that give the melanated man the entitlement that he is the controller factor of her experience, her money, and anything that she has gained, when it's supposed to be togetherness in the matter?
Man, the way you phrase that is very interesting. Because it's like that's the problem. It's out of order. It's not calculating for money is not in the natural order of survival. Like that's not what we came from. So at the instance when you're telling a man, okay, your innate program is to be responsible, but now you have to give away some of that responsibility and control, which men have done. Like, but we've had no choice. But that doesn't mean that both parties have it figured out on how to actually navigate that dynamic. And that's, to me, what we're dealing with right now is that it's not natural.
Okay, so let me say this. Is it then what we just saying, this is unnatural for a man to now give up that control, right? But here it is, we as men standing in non-qualification, asking the same melanated woman to submit to that which we're not qualified, that she is qualified in this field. She's qualified. She has the financial stability, which she is established in her life, right? Now we have an unqualified man, melanated man, standing in a position of that. Submit that to me, and I'm not qualified.
You done did it, bro.
I did it. I said it. I'm not taking it back.
But that's the thing is convoluting this. Like this is the power dynamic that's out of whack, because we are equating leadership with money. Like you just said, submission and finances in the same sentence. Those two things don't even they're not the same thing. Like this is the problem, that the amount of money you make equates to your ability to lead, which is not factual. Like that's not, like there's plenty of CEOs who don't know shit, who are dumb as hell. But they're in power because they come from money and they were placed there. Does that mean that CEO's wife is going to automatically assume like a submissive role? No, she might be the dominant lead in the family. And in the family structure, when it comes to finances, it's all the money coming into the house. It's not your money and my money. That's what the problem is.
Right.
It's not, you can't, as a man, you can't tell a man that he's responsible for the entire household if he doesn't have the access to all of the resources. And it's not about control, it's about responsibility. But these things are what's being purposefully convoluted, in my opinion. And to me, our women are being indoctrinated with this notion that anytime a man is trying to act in his masculinity and assume that role of responsibility, that he's being controlling. And I don't think that that's the case.
Okay, so here's the question. How does a melanated woman then identify that man to not prejudge him in that sense because of what's being represented in this time that we have right now of melanated men are operating in the physical form that we discussed before. In the physical form, we're all fully men. But in the internal mental aspect of it, we're operating from the levels that we should not be operating on. 15, 16, 17-year-old mental operating men, boys, should I say, in men bodies. So how do we now redefine that?
This is where I would, ask Nisha what she thinks about that, because the piece of content that I seen of hers was talking about generalizations. And as long as we keep projecting that melanated men exist as a monolith when it comes to us being problematic, that we're never really going to get past or get to the solutions. Because, all right, just for instance, right, the last time we spoke, and you were telling me about Nisha, you were saying, what her brand is, and what the aim and approach is. Mm-hmm. And then you said, well, don't you think that when men come across her and see that she is a single woman operating a business, that they're going to try to take advantage of her? And I ain't gonna lie, bro, like in real time, I'm just like, well, does that include me? Because that's, that's really what this social experiment is about, bro. It's like, we are very great at discounting the people who show up and projecting onto them the generalization of how we see the problem. And it's like, well, damn, like I'm in a rock and a hard place right now, because now I'm forced to defend something that I don't really associate with.
Right. So now imagine that being projected upon a melanated woman. She is put in a position to defend something that may not exist, that's being offered to her. You see what I'm saying? So this is where the conversation as men, melanated men, the importance of inner work displays the value of the man after the fact. Because if I value myself, then I value anything that I come in contact with.
Yes.
And I will respect it in its entirety, because I would not allow the rules of my own engagement to be devalued, disrespected, or step away from something that I set the terms and agreements of. To breach my own contract is to breach me.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well,
so I definitely would, from a melanated woman's aspect, I would definitely like you say, I would love to hear Miss Nisha.
Well, I I can't speak from a male's experience. So that's why I thought I was just pretty much letting you guys hash it out.
Right.
Um, right. But I believe that the people who are doing what they're supposed to do, we definitely should be giving them their flowers. But however, we still have to talk about what our experiences are. And I believe that everything starts with self. So if the woman is feeling some kind of way, she has to go inward. If the man is feeling some kind of way, he has to go inward as well. And that doesn't take, if a woman earns more than a man or whatever, that doesn't take away from him. But it, I think it makes, when a man doesn't earn what he wants to earn, I think it causes him to look at himself in a different kind of way. Cause me,
Absolutely.
if I'm speaking from when I was married 11 years, and because I knew my husband at the time, I knew when he was struggling financially. However, he wouldn't tell me because he wanted to figure it out himself. So I think more conversations about money. I think we should be preparing um, and talking about finances prior to entering these relationships.
That's facts.
Right.
Definitely.
Um,
Oh, wait, my bad.
and, and we should be working on communication as well, um, prior to entering these relationships. Because if you deal with the issue head on before you pair yourself up with another individual, then you are aware of the things that, you know, well, I would say you would know how to properly communicate these things.
Yes, and man, you said a lot of important things. And whew, all right, so communication definitely is the issue. It's just that what I can see is, like I said, we all have been put in this situation of newness. New money is what they call us. That, that's what them old people say. That's been had money forever in generations. They look at us and they say new money because we don't know how to act. But the projection is that we're supposed to have everything figured out, and we're supposed to know how everything works, and we're supposed to not fuck up.
According
And
to who?
what I can see is that melanated men aren't given that grace to try and fail. And in a relationship, this is why we don't communicate, because there's like a level of shame that is within us that has been instilled through oppression. And if you have a man that already has some elements of insecurity or inferiority complex, if he doesn't feel that he is earning his just due, then yeah, that's going to make him feel some type of way, especially when society is telling him that if you're not taking control or responsible for everything, you're not a real man. And what I can see within our community is that we don't understand that this is a worldwide problem. This is not just a us problem. And this is where us playing these victim Olympics games ain't getting us nowhere. Because, it's important to acknowledge what the issue is, but at what point can you call yourself healed if you're still talking about your trauma? Like that, and this is what I can clearly see. Melanated men aren't allowed to be victims. Don't nobody want to hear who do we complain to? At the point,
let me say this.
Mhm.
I think melanated men, we operate from victim standpoint, because if we can identify, I'm gonna say this first. If we as melanated men can talk about our ancestors' journey in history and in depth, but then we fail to acknowledge our accountability, then how do we not stand in victim state? Because we can identify the things. So if we can identify the things that happen to our ancestors, we can identify the things that we experience to call upon ourselves for accountability.
No, that's a very good point. And that's, to me, like that's the experiment of everything that we're dealing with, is that we are still dealing with the problems that were caused from that situation. Like we're still dealing with it. It's ongoing. It's not over. So to pretend that we are all playing on even ground and that the rules of engagement is the same is ridiculous. And, this is what Nisha was saying, or at least what I heard in the relationship dynamic. We haven't been taught to pool our resources. Everything is still separate when it comes to finances. And it's, okay, I got this money coming in and you got this money coming in, and what are you responsible for and what am I responsible for? But that's not how households are supposed to work.
So go ahead, Nisha.
I think when it comes to change and wanting to do better, we can't pick and pull what we want to move forward in. I think we have to look at everything as a whole and start somewhere. Like, just like if we look at the poly movement, right? You have some men that want to be with more than one woman, right? They pick that right up and they running with it because that's what they want, right? But when it comes to doing inner work and realizing that, hey, I might be the problem. Hey, I can do something better that adds a solution to the problem that exists. You want to walk away or turn away from that because that's work. So when it comes to change, you have to put in work. You have to put in effort. And during that process, you're going to have to be honest with yourself. And so that's going to make you uncomfortable, and pain comes with that. So we have this whole era now where guys want to be with more than one woman because some men like variety. But when it comes to you doing inner work on yourself, it just seems that you just having a hard time getting that. So I think that in our community, we pick and choose what we want to do. And so if a man is having an issue, he cannot put that issue on a woman. Matter of fact, the brethren need to come together and help one another and strengthen one another. Because when you see these groups of women that have come together and built something, it's women that came together to establish that. So you have to ask yourself, what am I coming together with the men to help them improve? Because we can forever push and pass the blame on one another. And I believe the single man needs to get together and help the single man. The single women should get together and help the single women. The married couple should get together and help the married people stay married. We can continue to go back and forth, up and down, in and out. But do we really want a real solution? Do we really want to work on ourselves individually before we come together with somebody? Or are we just too hell bent on getting in the bed, creating babies, and then we haven't even solved our issues from within?
No, those are very valid points. And only thing I'll give you pushback on, I'll disagree with, because me and Prentice had this conversation right before, like today before this live. I definitely believe that it's going to take men to solve men's problems and women to solve women's problems. But when it comes to how we got here, is the dismantlement of the family structure. So to believe that single people are going to educate other single people on how to heal, to me, is erroneous. We need to be speaking to the people who have successful relationships and listen to those individuals, people who have achieved success in society, and listen to those individuals. We are too focused on the damaged goods and, trying to fix the people who are not, or who are beyond repair. And this is why we keep getting in the cycle, because none of us are really willing to pour this energy into the youth, and they're watching. Like they're the ones who really need this information and not hear all of this infighting back and forth. They need to see representation of what's working, but only thing that we're focused on is what's wrong. But that doesn't mean that that's all that exists. And that's what this social experiment is really here to analyze is why is it that we are only focused on the negative as if there's no positivity in our culture? It's almost like we're not even allowed to talk about it.
Well, prior to me saying what I just said, I did say I think we should start with the like-minded people and come together with them and focus on the good. I did say that. But
You did.
however, I'm saying the single should come together with the single just because some single people are divorced, so they can definitely tell you what not to do. So they can share their experiences with somebody that's single. And I happen to be one of those. Like I can tell when I teach women, I talk about everything that I did right in my marriage and I talk about everything that I did wrong and what I know to do moving forward, right? So to say damaged good, that's a strong opinion, you know.
I,
But
well,
um
I
but
can see why you say that.
yeah, but I just believe that like I'm saying, we can keep going around in the circle or we can say, hey, this is what needs to be done. And then those who are like minded, we come on and we do the work. Because we can forever just keep talking and talking and talking and saying what the problem is. But can you at least give me one solution? What solution that you will offer to melanated families or to the melanated man? What solution can you start us off with?
Great question. That's what this entire project is for. I need us as men who don't exist in this narrative of degeneracy to step up and show the world that we are out here and you know, we exist because you wouldn't know it. You like only thing that's promoted or showcased in the media is our flaws and how we're deficient. And when I say we're damaged goods, everyone has some experience of trauma. So even like for you as an example, right? You're one individual and your circumstances are very unique to you. That doesn't mean
Right.
that someone else isn't going to be able to identify with your struggles and your plight, and they're going to tap in with you. But also that also means that your message or your platform or your stance might not resonate with someone else. And this is where we have to understand we are not a monolith and neither are our issues. So the solutions aren't monolithic. I'm not saying that what I'm proposing is the only solution. It is a solution. And it's a solution that I believe will work because it's media that has caused this problem, that has
Okay.
caused this point of contention of us going back and forth, because it's what we're tethering to when we're looking at reality and it's not reality.
Okay. So who controls the media?
Not us.
Okay. So do you think they're gonna paint us in a positive light?
No, that's why it's up to us to do it.
Okay. So how do we go about doing that?
We produce projects. So I have a background in film, and
Hmm.
I have documentary projects, and this is it. This is what I believe is a solution, is to
Okay.
create very specific media that is literally constructed to be a counter to the narrative.
Okay. So, uh, how can we help push that? Push what it is that you do.
By partnering and having conversations like this and having patience and understanding that the way that you eat an elephant is one bite at a time. It takes years to make movies, and I'm on
Right.
year 3 with this project. And one of the premises and the pillars of this social experiment was literally to see if I can get people to share a link.
Okay.
So when it comes to our systematic issues, we have not been taught how to support each other. Men don't support men, women don't support women, women don't support men, and vice versa. So it's this lack of understanding group dynamics is why we can't even get close to putting these solutions into play, because it keeps breaking down to ego and, okay, well, I think this and I think that and I think this. But if we come together as a group and outline each other's strengths and skills and roles, and then come up with a collective goal, then now everyone has a responsibility on what to do. And that's how you make a movie.
Okay. So what would you say that the men would like for us women to change or to do better?
I didn't say that. What I would say is that the analogy that you shared regarding your husband, and you said something very, very poignant. You said, I knew that he was struggling financially. So what I'm observing is in other cultures, like that sentence doesn't exist. It's not a you are struggling financially. Like it's a unit. So it's understanding that not only are we a unit, but one individual is struggling for a reason, and it's probably not because he ain't trying hard enough. And this is where, like, I'm finding that, this breakdown of communication is happening to where, in some instances, collectively, we can say, yeah, the system is a problem. The system is the problem. But then when men say, yeah, the system is the problem, it's like, oh, no, you making excuses, bro.
So here's a question that I have. Can today's melanated man and today's melanated woman, right, with the mindsets that we currently have, sit at at a round table and budget without having any ego or pride relatability?
I mean, that's a very good question. I don't think that there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that suggests that we can, but I do know that it exists. And that's why I'm, very intentional on getting these stories told and these people in front of cameras, because
Right.
I know that the reason why we don't know that they exist is because they're comfortable and they don't want to, they're in a survival mode. Honestly, like the majority of us are in a survival mode, which is why this project is Sentenced to Thrive. The Most High sentenced us to thrive as stewards on this plane. None of us are supposed to be in survival mode. But when you have someone who has a good ass job, and I'm speaking from experience, we fall victim to PC culture. And you have a lot of individuals who are scared to speak up because we got cancel culture.
Oh, for sure. For sure. So the reason why I asked that question is most men, not all men, when it comes to budgeting, right? We just don't do it. We in the moment, we pay as much as we can, or we pay it when we think we majority of us is late on our payments. So a lot of this responsibility falls on the melanated woman in the relationship to make sure everything in the household, everything is paid and everything, So when the melanated woman comes to the melanated man and say, hey, look, let's sit down and budget. Based on his lack of information and experience in this area, he can become frustrated because he has lack of knowledge in this area. And the communication breakdown will now begin because everything that she's experienced in and tries to say, hey, okay, X, Y, and Z need to be paid. This need to be paid to get to this final completion. He like, well, let's do this, and this, and we'll figure out the completion later. So I think, and I honestly believe, like I said, communication is the key in all relationships, right? But at the same time, us as melanated men must come to the terms and understand that we don't know everything. and our ego and our pride coming into any partnership has to leave at the gate.
I can see that, but so this is the thing, man. It's there is a very conscientious effort to paint a reality that does not behoove us. And one of the issues, and this is like, man, this is like, I'm so glad you just said everything that you just said, bro, because it's like, it's the example of what I'm explaining is when it comes to the faults of our culture, I feel that it's very easy to make melanated men the source of those problems. When in reality, as a culture, we are suffering with materialism. So a lack of ability to budget is not just a problem that's exclusive to men. And specifically, you have a multitude of content online that exists to where women are literally expressing like, yeah, it's the man's job to use his money to provide, and my money is my money. And this is illogical. So, this is why generalizations are very dangerous, because what you just presented is not absolute, nor is it just true of men. Like the way that you just phrased it is to say that only men are the issue when it comes to the financial problems that we deal with. But we know that that's not the problem, because, there's not a lot of us walking around with $5,000 handbags on our hips. Like that's not a necessity. So we have been taught to try to present value through materials. And this is where communication is important, but outside of communication, education is way more important, because until you have a knowledge of self and know your actual value, you shouldn't even be in a relationship.
True that. That's facts.
And, really, to me, that's at the base of a lot of our issues, is just acting in a carnal nature, not getting into relationships with longevity in mind, not getting into relationships with procreation in mind.
Well, a lot of that devalued state of mind puts us in the state of procreation that's and not longevity.
For some of us, bro, and that's what I'm really here to represent. Like, I am so tired of being lumped in with the problem.
No, I'm not saying identifying you specifically, but I'm saying
I'm just saying, I didn't say that, I'm not saying that you're saying that I am the problem. What I'm articulating is, I know, not only do I know that I'm not part of the problem, I know that there are other individuals like me that exist who are existing outside of this narrative.
Oh, for sure.
We just don't hear from them.
So not hearing from it, is that a small number, or is it a number that have yet to be established?
It's a number that's yet to be established. Let's just think about this, right? So like, let's analyze this like statistically. What is the population of melanated men that are either in prison or have been imprisoned?
Man, that's a big number.
It is like 40% or something, right?
Yeah.
All right, so it's not the majority.
Because it's 27% of the nation, 57% of them are incarcerated. So this the last current updated I seen. 57% are incarcerated.
So let's say 40% of us have either are in the system or have been through the system. That's not the majority. That means that the majority exist. It's just that we're only focused on the minority because we see them as the problems, and we're so victim oriented that we can't get off of it. Like it's very hard for us to look to each other for answers, to ask for help, to ask for guidance. We are put in a state of ego to, like I said, we're thinking autonomously, and it's even voiced to us when we're growing up. Or you're gonna have to figure it out. Like, this is a culture issue. This is not a man and a woman issue. This is a cultural issue.
Oh, for sure, it's definitely a cultural issue.
But as long
Because
as it's like we can't continually identify men as the problem and then not and then like forego them as being solutions as well. If you want me to
Right.
be accountable, then at some point we're gonna have to analyze what we're proposing as solutions. But if anytime someone like me proposes a solution and the retort is, well, yeah, but X, Y, Z and them is over here doing this, we're gonna be stuck in the same place.
Right. So I think what we should be as a solution base, and I'm reaching out and I'm speaking to a lot of melanated men that have done the inner work, even the man that has yet still coming into the inner work, right? Is that we need to start establishing a conference, conferences, as saying thriving men, melanated men, like defining, what areas that needs to be corrected, what areas need to be improved, identifying the things of our traumas, in this conference. If we got 20 men inside of a room, a conference room, and we're talking about these type of subjects, then the narrative changes.
Yes.
But we don't have these type of mechanisms or conference places and if they do exist, it's not heard of. It's not publicized.
That part. And that's why I'm saying that for me, the solution is media driven, because these things need light shed on them. And
Right.
I'm not gonna sit here and pretend as if I'm the only one presenting solutions and doing the work. Like there's a bunch of us out here. It's just like there's no, like, on purpose, it's not given any attention. So
Right.
as long as it's not given any attention, it's easy to make it look like we're not doing shit.
Right. So here's my thing, right? I'm gonna address Miss Nisha with something. Miss Nisha, from a melanated woman, right? What does the woman experience seek in the melanated man, right? So we can have a greater understanding of how to identify those needs and desires, or leadership, or just openness, to feel that place of openness, to be able to dialogue with you on areas that needs to be an open base, that we shouldn't consider as being vulnerability. How do we approach that from a melanated woman?
I'm gonna always take it back to self. I think it's just communication. You have to learn how to open up to your partner and be understanding. And when the conversation is being had, to not feel attacked, and to operate as a team. I think those are a few solutions. And I think a lot of times, too, like as women, when we say how we're feeling, it comes off as like an attack, but it's not. I'm just wanting you to communicate with me.
So how do we, as melanated men, get our melanated woman to address us in a way to where it's not feeling as an attack? Because some melanated men, we look at our queens and say, okay, here it is, you're raising your voice, or here it is, doing this and this. But in reality, those things are triggering to us because it's related to something else. Has nothing really to do with you as being my mate. It has something to do with something that's that inner work that we have felt
Mm-hmm.
that triggered us to now engage in you with, hey, look, don't talk to me that way. Don't do this. Or now I'm feeling vulnerable. You should not trigger that. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah. So I would
and
say again, communication. You have to make your partner aware of those triggers, right? So that during certain conversations, they'll know how to approach you to bring up certain topics.
Yes.
But the person that you're talking to, they have to be aware of those triggers themselves. So you have
Yes.
to know what your traumas and triggers are to be able to express that to me so that I know how to approach you or if it's safe to even open up to talk about a certain subject without you feeling like I'm taking a hit at your ego or you or whatever, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I think we have to realize that we have to get in a place and realize that we're not one another's enemy.
Woo. That part. That's it
that
right
part,
there.
man.
And
Yeah.
so this
Cause
design here.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Because I don't think either party feels safe. Like women don't feel safe opening up to men. Men don't feel safe opening up to women.
Nope.
So we really have to look at it like, hey, he's not my enemy. Hey, she's not my enemy. No matter what the world says about us. So we're
Mm-hmm.
taking on the mindset of what the world says about us and not who we really are.
That part.
And that's damaging to our communities.
Yep.
And we have to,
Cyclical.
right, and we have to reestablish trust.
Apprentice, didn't I say that
Yeah.
a couple of days ago when,
Yes.
when we were talking? Didn't I say that?
Yeah.
And I say exactly that. We just got to
Yeah.
learn how to trust each other. And
But see,
this design here that I have, gratitude is grace. To me, you know, put forth the idea of what we're talking about when it comes to solutions. Like if I'm showing gratitude towards my partner just because they exist and they're in my life, then I'm going to extend to them a certain level of grace, and it's going to be impossible for me to see them as my enemy. And if I automatically am at the default state of not seeing them as my enemy, then whatever they say to me, I'm not going to take with ill intent of trying to hurt me. And this is where when I was in film school, I took a bunch of psychology classes so that I could learn how to develop characters. And the first psychology class that I took was like a behavioral class. And when I left out of that class, the very first thought that I had that came to my mind is that every quote unquote Black person in America is suffering from PTSD. So we have to give each other that grace and that space to know that we are all suffering to some capacity, and the quote unquote right way to communicate might not always be within our grasp, depending on what we are dealing with mentally. And, when we're talking about solutions and, specifically what your skill set is, this is what I'm interested in, is acknowledging what our collective traumas are.
Mm-hmm.
What are our collective traumas? And based on that, now, how can we analyze these collective traumas and figure out, when we're being triggered and what to look for? Because to me, that's going to alleviate all of this back and forth between, it's you got this issue and I got this, and it's just back and forth and finger point. Because we're all dealing with something.
That's true.
Like no one is infallible in this. And as long as, there's this finger pointing and, well, my trauma is worse than your trauma. And, all of this is, we're not going to mature to the place that we need to be as a culture. Like we are in adolescent mode right now, which is, the government is our daddy. We are codependent. And specifically, the government has made a system to where our women are signing up to be pimped out, to take our place, even. Because, you know, we've been on the corner so long, we exhausted. They're like, oh man, these dudes broken. Like, let's get some fresh energy in here. Like, I think these guys are starting to catch wind that, you know, we don't really got their best interest at heart. Because, like, historically, melanated men have been in the workforce longer than the women, no? So we've been subjected to this system longer than the women. And in a lot of cases, we've been taught what to look out for. And the women, in my observation, hasn't necessarily been taught how to look out for the same traps, because there hasn't been women before them that have ever been in that situation to have that type of responsibility. And this is why we keep getting this power dynamic and this struggle. And it's, you know, it's all financial based, because we've been taught that, you know, the person who makes the money is the one who makes the decisions.
Sorry, I don't know what happened.
Oh, you good? And you know, one of the things I can clearly see is that how there are a lot of us who have bought into this, have bought into the notion that the woman can lead. She has the right, and she has the money now to do it. And then at the moment when that man relinquishes some of that responsibility, now he runs the risk of being emasculated.
So here's the question. Does his masculinity start within him, or does it start from what society projects him to be emasculate?
Great question, bro. And I'm glad you asked that, because that's really what I'm here to analyze, is that melanated men don't have the right to be assertive, strong, and confident. At the moment when we show up in that capacity, it's questioned.
But who's doing the question?
Us.
Okay.
Because all we can relate to is the trauma and the negative integers. So if that's all we know, then that counter is unfamiliar, and, you know, dissonance kicks in.
Right. So if it initiates from us, then why is this projected to the melanated woman? That's our issue. That is men experience, that if we feel like we're not in those positions and we feel devalued because a melanated woman steps into that position that shows the representation of that, or is financially stable in that position, that is her experience that got her to that position. Now, our position, if we're in the right state of mind, or we are operating in our experience of leadership and role, right, then we should never feel devalued in that state, because we have done all the inner work to get there.
I agree, and this is where it gets a little sticky. There's an echo, Prentice. Can you mute your mic when you're not talking?
Okay, hold
on. You know, this is why I said they run the risk of being emasculated. I'm not saying that it's a given, because that's really okay. Because that risk of being emasculated is really going to depend on the woman that they're dealing with and their
echo still there?
Level. No, I don't hear it now. You know, that is going to depend on that woman's level of maturity, and if she's operating from a place of ego. And, you know, this is what social media is presenting as evidence that, you know, there are women who are saying, oh, well, if I make this amount of money, then I should be able to do whatever it is that I want to, or I should be able to make the decisions, when, like I said, it's illogical. If you're in a household, it's collective finances. It's not your money and my money. That's absurd. No matter who makes the gross amount or the mass amount. And that's what I'm saying. That's what that power dynamic has been shifted, and it's unnatural. And we really don't know how to navigate it. And I'm not even going to say that that's just solely a us problem. Like, I think that's worldwide. I think that there are a multitude of cultures where that power dynamic is out of whack because who wears the pants is being questioned. Like if I have a woman and she's making more money than me, like the only way I'm going to feel emasculated if I'm whole within myself is if she projects that onto me. Like that comes from within. I don't think that's an external thing. An external thing when it comes to like to society, like that's internal within that household unit. Now, are there men who are broken who might be in this situation? Yes. And this is where, I find that these are subjects that, aren't very readily talked about or popular when it comes to, what melanated men are dealing with. And some of what we're dealing with is being financially abused. Like I said, it's just that we're not allowed to be victims. Nobody, like, who do we complain to? No one wants to hear that shit. Like, stop making excuses, bro. Be a man. And as long as that's the answer, we're going to suffer mentally. Like, there has to be some type of support system. There has to be some type of empathy that brings us all back to a collective issue that we're dealing with. As long as we're dealing with isolated problems, we're never going to have a collective solution because there's always going to be finger pointing. And even grosser, like there's no single point to focus on in regards to where the solutions of these individual problems should come from. And that's what I'm saying, because we're not a monolith. So my style of communication is not for everyone. It's for specific types of people. Prince's style of communication is not for everyone. It's for specific types of people. It's not a one solution fits all. We just have to, like Nisha said, we have to come together as like minds, find people who are on the same frequency and who have a willingness to work together and to build. And like I said, this is where I'm really interested in Nisha's skill set and, figuring out how we can present some what's the word I'm looking for? Some common practices to help us cope with the trauma that we are collectively dealing with. And then we can, I believe that once that happens, it'll be easier for us to then start to deal with the individual issues that we deal with, whether that be individual person or individual man and woman. Are y'all still with me?
Yes, we're here.
I seen Princess dropping in and out. I didn't know if the stream was acting up or not. But yeah, it's like they've really done a number on us and got us into believing that we are each other's enemy, when it's just not the case. Like, it really just depends on the subject. When it comes to relationships, yeah, we get into these combative, contentious arguments where we can only look at each other. Meanwhile, the puppet master is, laughing, pulling strings. So what would you say, like, what would be a next step to analyzing, what types of common issues we as melanated people, face?
I think we have to try and understand one another. Because the man doesn't operate the same and the woman doesn't. And we have to learn how to listen to one another as well. Like, cause we can't move forward out of chaos. And
Sheesh.
cause I'm about sick of the gender war myself. Like,
It's so stupid. It's so
yeah,
stupid.
yeah.
And like that's I'm like literally, man, I got so many receipts on the work that I've been putting in and bringing these things to light. I'm talking about 2016 is when I started to recognize these things, and I have like a little short documentary where I'm exposing how like the role reversal that was occurring.
hmm
And it's full fledged now. It's full blown, like that role reversal, at least as it's presented in the media. And like you said, I just think it's important. Like you said, I think it's important for us to really get to know each other on a level of what we need to sustain as humans.
Yes. Yeah.
And one thing that I can definitely see as part of that obstacle and why we can't get that is materialism.
hmm
Trying to fill a void with handbags and cars.
So, because my biggest concern is our youth as well. But it's all over, it's in the music, it's in the media, you know. So I've even been thinking about it like, how can we redirect our youth?
You just said it, through the music and the media.
hmm
We just have to support and make conscientious effort to make that type of media to combat the shit that's being aimed at us.
Right, because even if you have a two-parent household and that mother and that father is doing their best to raise that kid with moral and value and just in the right way. But outside of the home, you have school, you have the media, you have the music, you have the influences that are around them. So, my heart goes out to the children that have to be brought up in all of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's facts. And that's definitely what the problem is that we're dealing with, is that we have individuals within our community who have been doing their best to, stay on the right path or stay on a righteous path and to, instill in their children morals and core values. It's just that we live in a world that is conscientiously trying to brand us as the opposite. Like it's a very conscientious effort to get you to believe that I am one and the same as a problem child. And I have the burden to bear to prove otherwise. Like there's no such thing as face value.
Mm-hmm. So we have to begin to think about things on a deeper level. So if there is an attack or whatever on our children, we can't get it together either. Then where does our children end up?
Part of the system, and and that same victim mentality of this is why I'm this way. This is why this, like I dealt with this growing up and I dealt with this. Like, it's up to us right now as adults to ensure that that cycle is not repeated.
Yes.
It's just, in my observation, we're too focused on each other, the damaged goods. Like we're already damaged. We didn't already sustain the scars.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we're not going to teach our children to stay healthy by keep opening up and showing our wounds.
Yeah.
We got to show that, hey, look, this is what I did to heal this wound, but more importantly, this is why this wound happened, and I don't want you to get in that situation because, you don't want to have to learn how to repair yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's better you just grow up whole so that you can thrive from that position versus having to try to work backwards and figure it out where what went wrong.
Yeah. Ooh, I like that.
And that's just going to take effort, that's just brain power.
Yeah.
We have to look at it from the perspective that it's not a one-day solution.
Hey, man, your line keep kicking me out. I don't know what's going on. We have some technical issues, but my apologies for not being in and out. I don't know what's going on, but this is what I do want to say, big bro, is that it's getting a little late, and Miss Nisha has to tend to her little ones. But definitely, I enjoyed this build. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the knowledge that transfers from the femininity to the masculinity. And I look forward to continuing this conversation. Me personally, you know what I mean? Because it's information that is needed. It's information that is required. It bridges the generational gender war. And I'm pretty sure as we proceed that more and more information will identify the things that is keeping us separated.
That's it. That's what's important right there, to figure out who the actual enemy is.
Because I know the first enemy of contact is within.
Uh-oh.
That is our first enemy. Because once we identify our own triggers and traumas, we are then only forced to find solution based to self-growth.
So here's the thing about that statement. None of us are really born into trauma. Like when you say recognize our triggers, like those come from instances, like it comes from something. So we have to really learn how we can come up with preventative measures so that we can raise healthy children in a healthy family unit, so that we don't have to worry about traumas and being triggered. And this is where it's, in my observation, in my opinion, that the way that that's done is, separating ourselves away from the victim mentality.
Right.
Like it's okay for us not to have it figured out. That's not that doesn't mean that I'm a victim because I don't have it figured out. It just means I don't got it figured out yet.
Right. And to get to that point, you have to understand the causative factors, the triggers, and have that deep insight to be solution based.
It's like if I'm overweight, right?
And you're overweight.
And I know I'm overweight. we can't try to figure out how to get me to stop being triggered by the smell of French fries. We just have to teach me that French fries are bad.
Right.
From the beginning.
But to teach you that it's bad, we have to then identify the smell to let you know that smell is bad.
Well, if I just don't eat French fries,
your obesity.
If I've never had, that's what I'm saying. If I've never had French fries, then I've never had anything to be triggered.
Right.
To trigger me. And that's where, if we're not indoctrinated with this gross level of materialism, then I don't have an inferiority complex to overcome.
Yeah. But at the same time, a lot of it is displayed information, which ignites to be intrigued by what this is about, to now
That's ex-
activating to
Go ahead.
figuring it out.
But that's what I'm saying. That's external though. And that's where I believe that if we teach our children that their self-worth comes from within, then it's not going to matter what they see because they know that that's not them. They're not going to identify with that. They're not going to receive that program as truth. And that's
Right.
what's happening right now is our youth are being presented a narrative that they don't know anything else exists. When
For sure.
25 to Lifestyle, the reason why I chose like that title was when I was under the age of 25 and working at the Pentagon, bro. I had a job at the Pentagon and I'm doing like research on Google when Google first came out. And the statistic that I came across was that what was it? It's like 40% of melanated men are be dead or in jail by the age of 25.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's a reality that's projected onto me and I don't know anything else, then that is my enemy, even if it's really not.
Yeah, because it's a seed that's been planted. Just like the seed has been planted that because you live in a impoverished neighborhood, this is who and how you are defined.
Yup. And that's where I'm saying leadership and self-worth don't have nothing to do with finances. Otherwise, wouldn't none of us be shit. Because none of us come from wealth.
Internal wealth.
That part. And that's where I'm really, I really want to analyze the mental health aspect of this and get people to be aware that you might be suffering from an inferiority complex. That's why you're triggered so easily on everything.
That's what's up. Well, we gotta do the work. Gotta put the work in. Gotta be more. We gotta use these platforms like we're using them for the greater good of our people, for this next generation to set a blueprint. What's to follow versus what they're visually seeing as being the blueprint.
That part. Meeting adjourned.
That's right. All righty, bro.
We did it. We just solved life.
Man. Two different
now
blueprints.
Now we just gotta get people to listen.
Okay. Well, let's keep going. And
that's why these conversations are important, and for us to be able to extract our own value within our own conversations and build upon it.
That part. Miss Nisha.
Hey.
How you feeling?
I'm blessed. Glad to have had the conversation with you guys.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm glad to have the opportunity to have the conversation with you too. You know what I mean? I appreciate and I love the way you express your experience as a melanated woman. Your perspective is beautiful. The work that you do is beautiful. And I look forward to more dialogue with you on these topics because, we need that fresh perspective from the feminine.
Right.
Especially if coming from a melanated woman because a lot of men, we don't hear that the clarity that you speak. So I appreciate you.
Oh,
yes.
Of course. Thank you, guys.
Yes, I definitely appreciate your presence. And I will be diving into your content because what Prentice is saying is factual. And, specifically what I believe that us men need is for our women to show us some grace and maybe even a little bit of nurturing, and nurturing that inner child that, you know, as boys, melanated boys, were often seen as burdens to society, you know, before we even get a chance to, you know, grow fuzz on our peaches. So when, you know, to me, that's the trauma that we're dealing with. And it's the reason why we have this inferiority complex, is because we weren't properly nurtured and developed to instill confidence. And as long as we're feeling attacked and the fingers pointed us for the problem, we're always going to be in a defensive nature. And that's not conducive to anybody, especially if people are looking at us as the most powerful beings in the universe.
You said something though. And this is going to be one of our next topics. As a melanated man, identifying the proper way of being nurtured from a melanated woman, how to receive it.
Man, I think that's one of those things where, you know, that is a collective issue. And, you know, when I was saying that we all suffer from PTSD, I think we had a conversation before where it's like, you know, what I'm observing is ninjas can't listen or hear nothing unless you yelling at them, because that's how they grew up.
Mm-hmm.
We grew up in with a toxic communication style. So it's very hard to hear one another unless it's at that level. And that's not healthy.
So the redefining the nurturing, the way your mama used to yell at you, is now, as a melanated man, we have to set the tone.
Yes.
To be able to receive the nurturing that is being offered. First, we have to identify, is this nurturing? Because if we can't identify it, then it's going to be received as a motherly address.
Or being emasculated. But that's where, you know, Miss Nisha is going to help the women, you know, figure out the proper tactics and how to approach that situation.
And we'll address the proper tactics in receiving it.
Yup.
Okay. Well, like I said, Miss Nisha, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. I cannot say it enough. I know you got to go tend to them babies. And man, it's such a beautiful thing when you hear a melanated woman speak her journey with such honor, integrity, passion, and love, and in a way to I can have a relatability as a melanated man to see if I have some of those traits in me that may cause those issues somewhere down the line with someone that I may come in contact, you know, to build my life with. So a lot of the things that she spoke about, now I'm going to do some deep diving. Do I have some of these traits to now do some inner work and make some corrections? So it's always good to hear a melanated woman speak in the sense of how the melanated man should operate. So I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure.
I thank everybody for coming through. This episode, a Prentice story coming soon. Today's topic was success through partnership. This is 25 to Lifestyle, Sentence to Thrive, a documentary miniseries for melanated men to be able to express how they view themselves as a success, all for the purpose of creating positive propaganda for the youth. And this project is sponsored by Commercial Universe Boutique, a brand merging mental health with merch for you, you melanated masterpiece. Check out our store. We got all types of cool products that allow you to reflect a positive state of being as well as embody it. Bags, t-shirts, the whole nine. We even got blankets and coffee cups and you name it. Just shop now. You get it. I don't want to be the sham wild guy up here. But I appreciate everybody coming through and stay tuned to the next time. Sayonara.